Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Arts Show, where we celebrate books, music, visual, and the performing arts. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Art Show. Today, we're chatting with keyboardist, bass player, songwriter Neal Rosner, and he has just released his brand new album out. It is called Kentucky. And this really chronicles, I think it's over 12 years of him living in Madisonville, Kentucky. Welcome, Neal. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. Yes.
So 12 years? 12? Wait. So this was a residency in Madisonville, or was that you were living there, or was it an artist residency?
It was a job change. In my day job, I'm a doc. I'm a radiologist, and I had a change I worked for many years in the southern suburbs of Chicago, and then I had a change in my group, and they sent me to Madisonville, Kentucky. And at that time, that was in the beginning of 2011, and at that time, I thought, I'm the biggest loser in the world. I got to go to Kentucky, and it's horrible, blah, 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 blah. But it turned out it was probably a wonderful experience, spiritually, musically, financially, otherwise. It was just a wonderful time. Made some wonderful friends down there.
Where is Madisonville? When I think about Kentucky, I mean, I know we go through it. Nancy and I travel full time, and we've definitely had our time in Kentucky. But what would be the closest big city? I mean, is Madisonville
if you're driving, Madisonville is only 18,000, 19,000 people.
Nice.
But if you drive south, parallel the Indiana-Illinois border, Route 41, which becomes 63 and then 41 again, then you drive to the southern end of Indiana, which is Evansville, which is probably the biggest town around, and then you go further south across the Ohio River, and then another 55 minutes, and you're in Madisonville. So it's in Western Kentucky, all town in Western Kentucky.
Yeah, I've been through there. Definitely have done that. Because we've gone through Lexington, Louisville too, and done a lot of central Kentucky. Obviously, the Bourbon Trail is really huge out there, right? But there's so much history in Kentucky. Yeah. We just did a podcast on Hal Moore and his wife, Julia Moore. Hal Moore is a very famous general during the Vietnam War, especially. Wow. He rescued a lot of men, and his wife helped with the army, the wives really going through when, it used to be like if a taxi came to your door, you knew your husband got killed in combat. And it was a really cruel way for the wives to handle that. And so she really helped make huge changes. But he was based in Bardstown. That's where he was born. And we went to his museum. But everyone listened to the first Monday in March with Mike Guardia. We do our military history show. But I think, I want people to know there's so much more than bourbon in Kentucky. There's beautiful parks. There's a lot of art. I think there's a quality of life that we sometimes, every state has its problems. But I think Kentucky does have a beautiful quality of life. Wouldn't you say, from living there?
Absolutely. It's a small town. I mean, everybody knows your business, but everybody also helps if there's a problem. And people are very, very friendly down there. But on the other hand, there's Kentucky gun culture. Everybody's got a gun in Kentucky, so it's what it is, But there's very little crime in small towns. Very little crime.
Because everyone's got a gun. Take you out.
One of the first things I learned when I first came down there is this: you don't go to anywhere uninvited. It's just a good thing to do. But,
yeah.
But we love it in Kentucky. We again, I grew up as a Jewish kid in Chicago, Rogers Park. Moved down to Kentucky. there's no synagogues down there, but we joined a very liberal Christian church down there. First Christian church in Madisonville, Kentucky. A woman pastor, and I got baptized in the First Christian Church in let's see, September 13th, 2015. Still remember it. And it's just a lovely people. They're and I've met a recording engineer down there, Steve Baker, and we were able to over the 12 years record a bunch of stuff, and it was very pleasant for me.
Well, it feels very theatrical, this album to me. Like it could be part of like a solo play, like a
Oh,
one-man show going up and telling a life story. I felt like I was in a theater listening to it, like in a personal kind of experience, kind of like someone singing a biography in a way.
well,
And
thank you so much. From your mouth to God's ears. That's a good thing, I'd love that.
yeah, no, it sounds like it. First thing I was like, well, it's not vaudeville and it's not burlesque. I'm not going there with you. I know there's a lot of spiritual parts of this, but also life events, events that happen in the country. But these songs, from what I understood, have been written over a few decades. So beyond Kentucky, like you were writing these before you moved to Kentucky.
But that is correct. That is correct. Some of the oldest songs, I think the Radical was written, right now in 1974, and that was in response to the SLA, people kidnapped Patty Hearst, the SLA shootout in Los
Mm.
Angeles, and this is written from one of the terrorists, one of the woman terrorist point of view, and it made an impression on me. So, and then there's other things that was written in 20, I think the Red and Blue, which is about political. Political nastiness, and my and my
It
and
hasn't
my
ended.
and it hasn't, and also about the my disdain for social media. That was written after after 2016, after the after Trump won, and people love him or hate him, and it's what it is. But
Well, yeah, I think we've gotten to that divide of love versus hate. It's like there's no in between now.
I know.
It's a very and it's interesting being in Kentucky. We were actually when the whole thing of the Capitol got stormed day in
Yes.
January, we were actually driving from Madison, Wisconsin, where we'd gone through a few snowstorms, and I learned about shoveling snow, which I know you know about. You know that from
Yeah.
Chicago. Yeah. We weren't far from you. But that day we actually drove through we started driving at like 1 in the morning or something through snow fog and had never experienced that. And
Oh,
everything was still lit up, all these little towns, and we did a bit of Illinois as well. And it was just all twinkly lights and it was magical, but also like, uh-oh, but
magical.
nothing compared. Well, even south of that. And, we went through Champaign, Illinois area.
Sure.
Um, and, went to one of my favorite parks. They have a beautiful, like a botanic garden and it's outside Champaign and it's a forest thing that's going. I've been there now twice, but I need to go and we're going to go in the spring again this year. I'm excited. Um, but outside there's this lake forest and it's just, I don't know, it's magical. And, there was a covered bridge and snow and ice and everything, but it was
Sure.
really magical. But we ended up in Kentucky. And of course, we're listening to the news, NPR or whatever, and we're hearing what's going on at the Capitol. We're like, holy cow, right? And we'd actually
Yeah.
met a few people at a rest area. And I do believe it was Indiana now that I think of it. And they were lost and ran out of money to get there to riot the Capitol. And I'm like, I ain't paying you anything. Sorry, dude. And we kept driving and I had friends calling, where are you two? Because we travel full time. And they're like, where are you? Where are you? And I'm like,
Sure.
we're in Kentucky somewhere. Get the heck out. I'm like, dude, no one's here. Like we're, we're hanging out. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful day where we are. It's warmer. And it was just really odd because people absolutely freaked out that we were in Kentucky and we're
Sure.
looking around us going, there's absolutely nothing happening where we were. We were
Oh,
in a
absolutely
rest
not.
area with gazebos that were like little gazebos and beautiful trees, and it was like a beautiful day. And everybody's freaking out, but here we were in this little magical space. It's weird, isn't it? How that
Yeah.
happens.
Well, it's interesting. Kentucky is it's a deeply red state. However, we have a Democratic governor, Governor Beshear, who's the second term just won, and he's a terrific guy. He got us through the pandemic, and he's just a very good guy. And it's mostly in Kentucky. It's most everything is mostly Southern Baptist down there. Now, growing
Mm,
up in Chicago, the only Baptists I met in Chicago were black. Southern Baptists are different.
right.
They're all white. It's a and very conservative. But our little church is kind of an island of very liberal Christian thought in a sea of very conservative Southern Baptists, and but it's very good people there. A lot of people transferred over from the First Baptist Church, our church, over some scandals that happened 2 years ago, and so it's
Mm,
good. It gives me a warm feeling. Now, technically, I mean, if you do 23andMe, I'm 99.9% Ashkenazi Jew. Now,
wow.
and and then I got baptized in First Christian Church, but then I had a terrible situation. My son passed away 3 years ago, and
Oh,
he had a bad cancer. He was 36 years old, and so now, let's just say my relationship with God right now is somewhat challenged. But
mm,
I do love the people down there, and we actually maintain, even though we live in Chicago now, we rent an apartment down there, and we're going down there I think March 13th for a week and see some people. And I'm also
nice.
going to play some music down there on June 29th.
Awesome.
Um,
Oh, cool.
it's play music. So I play music in Chicago with my band, McLuhan, and
Yeah.
I play music in Kentucky every now and then too.
Well, I was listening to your band today, and
Oh,
you
cool.
guys are like a prog rock band from what I've heard. Like, but to me, you guys have a lot of jazz going on in there, and you're playing bass mostly. I know that you play keyboards too, but you're mostly bass in the band, right? Or
In the band, correct. I'm playing bass
yeah,
in the our friend Tom Toyja. He's the one of the original guys. We have three of the six original guys in the band, and he's playing he's keyboards for us, and I'm playing bass, and singing. And recently, my wife Barbara has joined the band, and
right. Cool.
she's cool. She's does backup singing, and she's
And
a
also,
former
in
act.
and your album too. She's on your album Kentucky as well, right?
Absolutely, and that's her face on the front of the album. You know,
Ah, there she is.
it's
That's
kind
cool
of
that
like
you're together. Yeah.
yes, it's cool. Well, it's kind of like an impressionist painting.
Hmm.
The That was taken. Barb's daughter got married to a wealthy Egypt to um, they're American, but their family's from Egypt, and so the wedding was in Cairo, Egypt, and some of our friends who were a little bit tipsy and took a picture of the at the wedding, and the picture was blurry and motion out of focus, but I thought it would be great for a painting, and we had a friend of ours, Skylar Mail, who was a young man, and he did he took the photograph and made a painting out of it. And
It's kind of retro, isn't it?
yeah,
The cover.
I think it's
Yeah.
kind of like French impressionistic, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That
Well, I think also then when you listen to the album, like that's where I was going, like it's cabaretish, but it's not. And then, you know what I mean? That's why I feel like it should be in a theater. Like you should be doing it as a play,
yeah,
and obviously having the musicians with you too. And it's just kind of it's like a storytelling, you know, album. And it's something where you don't just play a song. You listen and listen to the words and what's happening. And yes, you definitely have a lot of spiritual, connection with it. And I think, everybody's different in their walk of life of spirituality and religion, but I think people can appreciate it for that, no matter what they believe in. And I think you manage it in a way where it's open for everybody, you know what I mean, to
especially
listen to.
I agree. Thank you. I agree, especially in one of the last songs, "What is God, Seed of Abraham?" That's basically is mean that we're all one. And that
Mm.
song was taken from a video we made, and you can look at that on YouTube as well. Neal Rosner, what is God, Seed of Abraham? And the first part of the interview of the video is we interviewed different people about their religion. People that worked at the hospital that I worked at in Kentucky, a Hindu, Muslim, a pagan, Wiccan, atheist, Protestant, Jew, and it concentrated more on the similarities than the differences. And then we have that song as part of the video too. So it's yes, we are we are all one, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, well, you're Jewish and Christian, no matter how you look at it. You know what I mean? It's like you can't
Well,
get past that,
I
right?
consider myself both and
Yeah.
none.
Hey, well, yeah. Well, and it's okay to go through the complicated times because it's just another part of growth, right? No matter what,
Sure.
like no matter where you land, it's part of growth and it makes you think. And I think it's important to think about these things too and how you
Yes.
feel, and you're allowed to say, well, that sucks, especially losing, a child is a very, really hard thing. So I'm really, really sorry for your loss. It's just,
Yeah.
you can't, it's not easy, period.
No.
It's just
The
not.
only thing on the positive side from that, he left me two grandchildren,
Oh,
Cole and David, and I think Cole is 9 and David is 6, and
mm,
Cole looks just like Brad, was my son, and
mm,
so it's both weird and comforting because
mm.
when I look at him, he's but it's almost like I'm starting over again. I'm raising my kid again, and of course when I see him, I wind up inadvertently calling him Brad, but I try not to.
Well, let's talk about the album with this, I know you did this with Steve Baker, but it is in two parts, right? And you say that it's the first part is plain and secular, and the second one is with Peanut, and this is
Yeah.
semi-religious, right?
Yes.
What's with the Peanut is what is,
I was
tell me about
I was
Peanut.
just like M&Ms. I was just trying to be cute.
Okay.
Nothing deep.
I almost ate a packet of M&Ms before you came on that had the peanuts in them because that's important.
Ah,
When you're on
well,
the road like we are, like M&Ms with peanuts, not without. You must have the peanuts because of
you
protein
have
if
to
you're not
have the
allergic.
peanuts. You
You
have
have
to
to.
have the peanuts.
Yeah, because you're going to still chew and it gets you on the road. It's like a perfectly balanced meal.
I'll
Just
tell you.
saying.
Well, speaking of which, I just had, there's a lot of good restaurants here in Palm Desert where we are right now. And
Yeah.
one of the restaurants we were at, they had coleslaw with peanuts.
Oh,
That's
perfect.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that makes it more going into like an Asian slaw then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's good to have almonds or no, peanuts are good. Peanuts are
Hmm.
good for you, everybody. And I got to give a shout out. One of our friends runs the peanut patch in Yuma, Arizona. Now, I wish you were still in Palm Desert. Could run down like it's not far from you in Yuma, Arizona, the peanut patch. Check it out. They used to grow peanuts not far from where you are in Palm Desert. And then the whitefly came because of the lettuce, and the lettuce apparently is a bigger, important, more important industry. So they
Hmm.
stopped growing peanuts, but they keep their little store going. It's like a little
Sure.
country store. And I think so like Kentucky, that's part of life, having those country stores where you don't see that very much like in Los Angeles and stuff, right?
No.
In big cities.
So small
I don't
town,
know about
small town,
Chicago.
small town is different than than the urban areas. There's no doubt about it. I mean, first of all, politically, the urban areas are all blue, and so the rural areas are usually red. But it's different, and I like them both. Like I say, I still maintain my relationships with my friends down in Kentucky. Um, and the album in Kentucky was payback for the love and the wonderful situation I had for 12 years down there.
Mm.
Um, I'm an older guy now, so I'm not my group is not working at the hospital anymore. But I still
Mm.
maintain my friends down there, and we're still members of the church, and it's
Mm.
just yeah, our heart is there. And so I
And
thought it was
Chicago,
fitting.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Chicago, being in Chicago, you're going back and forth, which is cool that you're connected and then reflecting back on this time in Kentucky. But you're also still performing. You're going to perform these songs from the album with your band up in Chicago, right? That's
Right
also
now,
part of what's happening.
we have not started doing my songs with the band yet. We're doing the McLuhan songs, and we do a lot of covers. We have some
Mm.
terrific players in the band. The age range in the band is from 73 to 29. Our trumpet player is
Nice.
at 20. Trumpet player is 29. He's an absolute monster on trumpet. Then we have an older guy, Paul Cohn, who's the woodwind guy. He plays clarinet, flute, sax, and he's fabulous too. And then we have a really good guitarist, Mitch Marcus, and a very good drummer, new drummer. Luke Meyer. So we're really good. I'm in a situation though. Remember, I've done well in my career, and I pay my pros. I pay some of the people in the band are pros, and I pay them to play out. So I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it just because for the sheer love of it, and also it's my antidepressant therapy.
Mm.
It's one of the things that keeps me. There's nothing like at any age you're playing in a bar. It doesn't matter how big the bar is or a club, and people get applause. They're into the music, and that's it. And then also just there's a certain vibe when you're playing, even before the applause. It just feels good, like I'm driving a real fancy Ferrari. The engine's under the hood, and it feels just it's a good high.
I agree. We've done so many shows about music and creativity, art, books, writing. The arts is like the antidote to depression, I believe.
I
Obviously
agree.
spirituality too is connected. Nature, huge. But the arts is something that tells, I mean, definitely your album is the sounds of history, like the truth of the people, the truth of what's happening to the land, to the scene of the times, versus, you can look up in newspapers and you can see where newspapers, skewed things who was paying what. I mean, now we have newspapers that are being paid off by politicians. So it's weird. It's
Yeah.
really weird because they'll actually back politicians. It's not hidden. It's like, we're doing this. We're backing this politician. And I'm like, what? I thought you were supposed to be, we're a talk show. We're a podcast. We can be opinionated, but I thought the press was the press, but apparently it's a little different. And then
Well,
some really strive not to be like that. So I'm not trying to generalize, but I'd say 80% is a little, 70 to 80% maybe is a little weird. But when you look at music and the arts and books, I think it tells the truth and at least emotionally gives a sense emotionally of what has gone on in the world,
and it
and
gives
that's important.
and it gives a sense of questioning. Things are not always black and white. And it helps you think about stuff. I totally agree. I don't like CNN. I don't like Fox. you know, I I listen to PBS.
Yeah,
WTTW
yeah.
in Chicago, and they get the good news from there. And I look at the news on my phone. That's what I do.
And if you get your news from social media, you're in so much trouble. Uh, so, I'm glad you put in, information on the curse, as you say, of social media, in the album too. But I think it is, music can also change your direction to be positive, whether you have to work through something and have, the negative emotions, because you can't be positive all the time. It doesn't work. If we could smile all day long, our face just won't do it. But, there's, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to have all these emotions and music gets you through it. So you don't linger too long. And I think because it always has to go to the next beat, right? You can't just hang there for 10 years. You have to go to the next beat at some point. That
Mhm.
music helps us physically and emotionally, soulfully get to the next beat in our lives.
But there's also, unfortunately, a dark side of music too.
Sure.
Um, there's back in Nazi Germany. There's the Horst Wessel song was a song about killing Jews and this and that, and then it was one of the Nazi anthems. In modern day, a lot of the dark rap is encouraging violence and thuggery. Um, so it's
Mm.
and also some of there's like death metal bands and stuff like that. I don't find that inspirational at all, but most of the music I do like a lot. Um, I'm into jazz. I'm into pop. And since I've been out in Kentucky, I love bluegrass. Bluegrass is,
I do
I think,
too.
it's awesome. I'm not a big country fan of just regular country music, but bluegrass for me is like the authentic thing.
It's folk.
So
It's folk. It's folk. That's the song of the people, It's Americana and global too. I mean, even the banjo is African, and then at the same time we have all these Celtic and, influences in there, and it's kind of this melting pot of culture that comes through, and you think about people making their moonshine back in the day. bourbon, shine, rye whiskey, whatever you want to
Sure.
call it. They were playing that out there by the light of the moon, you know? They were
Oh yeah.
doing, I mean, come on, there's something magical about the light of the moon and music and making shine out there in the backwoods. And they were out there with snakes and stuff and
Oh, for
whatever the
sure.
weather was going. Come on, they took a risk and they're like, well, I'll just take another sip, sing, and then they pray and move on. There's something cool about that. And it does feel romantic in that like, ooh, magical, mysterious,
There's,
but
oh, there's,
it was
there's,
hard work.
there's tons of romance in Kentucky. Tons of romance in Kentucky. There's a wide variety. When I worked at the hospital in Kentucky, which is Baptist Health, Madisonville, Kentucky, the CEO then was a guy named Burt Whitaker, and he's from Eastern Kentucky. That's Appalachian stuff. That's really really poor, poor, poor. Oldest of
Mhm.
11 kids. And no no running water, no toilet in the house. Um, and his first one went to college, only one went to college. But he tells a story when he when he was younger, he was out chopping wood with his younger brother, who was Bert was maybe 5, the younger brother was 3, and he cut off his younger brother's tip of one of his fingers, and his mama came out and took the bird finger and put it in a carton of Lucky Strikes and buried the Lucky Strike in the finger. That's you can't make that stuff up. I mean, it's just
No, no, but I love that story.
but
you know,
it's also dirt poor out there. Some of it is. But you were talking about the moon, the romance. There's a place by Cumberland Gap out there, and they have something called a moonbow. When the light shines on the water from the river at Cumberland Gap, it creates a rainbow, a moonbow, and
mm,
people come down for that, and that's pretty romantic too. But you know, but anyway,
that's amazing what light can do. Like in Yosemite National Park, at I think it's Bridal Veil Falls, and at a certain time of the year, there's just a certain point, and it looks like fire is happening at the waterfall,
oh, it's so
it's
cool,
on
so
fire.
cool.
And it's not. It's just this lighting that happens at a certain time. And you just have to catch it at that moment. And it's a big deal. People make treks to these places just for that lighting, But it's like the solar eclipse that's coming,
Yeah,
People are revving up for it and there'll be traffic jams across the country.
yes, they
I ain't
will.
going anywhere.
No, neither am I. We
No.
had in Madisonville, Kentucky. We had about 5 6 years ago. We had a eclipse down there, and we were expecting thousands and thousands of people because we had total eclipse for a long time, 3 4 minutes, and but no one showed up. Wasn't that
Well, it's a
busy at
small
all.
town, but I mean,
Yeah,
19,000 is like so nice. That's like a perfect balance of, yeah, you're going to have gossip. The gossip, like you're talking about, and people, if you don't give gossip, they're going to make it up. And that is its own beauty too about small communities
oh
is
for
the
sure.
gossip channel. Come on. Who doesn't like a good gossip story? Come on. This whole
Even
thing,
though we
don't
don't like to
gossip.
admit it, yes, it's part of human nature. It really is.
It's storytelling and it's so fun. Come on, it's like going back into high school days, when we're at a certain age, we start reflecting back, and when you reconnect with your high school friends and whatever, and all the shenanigans you did, there's like this naughtiness about it. It's kind of
But
this, oh, so and so did this, then we become naughty again. And I think it's the spirit of life is to have a good gossip.
absolutely. And actually, there's an art form. Storytelling, especially down south in Kentucky, is an art form. We have a friend of ours, a former mayor of Madisonville, Will Cox, and sometimes we have like fire in the around he lives at a farm, so we have an outdoor fire and sitting around the fire and you drinking and telling stories. And this one guy, he's I think he's an insurance agent by day, but he's got it down. He's Spencer Holly's his name, yeah, good guy, but he tells his stories and he's got the act down. It's like professional quality storytelling, and it's just says stuff cracks you up and goes into your heart, and it's just good stuff.
I like that. It's because it is about human nature, and that's the importance of history. And that's where, the arts does so good about, like I was saying earlier, like telling history, because history is gossip. It is storytelling. It's about human lives. It's what people did. good, bad, and ugly, and just amazing as well. There's all these amazing stories that happen, and I think it's interesting your subject matter all in one album. You've got everything from shootings to religion to politics, yet at the same time, you want to sit down in a cocktail lounge and have a performance of this. That's really quite a way to go, to create it. Did you think that's what you wanted to do when you put the album together, that it would be that kind of effect? I know that's just me speaking from my opinion, and everybody takes in albums and music their own way. And I don't like to, inflict my opinions on that, because I don't want to ruin it for how people listen, but was there an intention when you put this album together of how you wanted people to hear it?
The short answer is no. I mean, I'd love to
Cool.
say that I really plan things in depth, but many times I feel I feel my musical stuff. I'm not really a trained musician. I mean, I can read music, but like at first grade level. But I hear stuff, and sometimes and it just comes out, and I know what I like and what I don't like, and I can do it. So I think I like to tell stories, though. I mean, in most of my songs, from one thing or another. I am going to try to tell you about. There's a new story I'm going to be putting out. I'm starting going to the studio in Chicago on March 2nd, and a couple songs I'm going to do. One is a great story. It's a story about about a go-go dancer in New York City in the early '70s. It's called Chiclets because they call her Chiclets. And when I make a little primitive video, I'll send it to you at your email or if you give me the link. And I think you'll like that too. But love telling
Cool.
stories.
That is it, storytelling. And look, that's how we are about movies and Netflix and all of that, right? It's all about those soulful stories. So, all right, so you have a gig coming up in Madisonville, right? So you're going to be playing there in Kentucky in
Yes,
June. Is that right?
and then Chicago, we're playing with the band McLuhan on March 9th, Saturday night, March 9th. And that's in a northwestern suburb of Chicago called Crystal Lake. And we're playing there from 8 to 11. And then I'm going to take a break after the March, between March and June. I want to go in the studio with the band. I start learning some Neal Rosner songs in addition to the cover songs we do right now. So that's my battle plan.
Cool. Lots going on. It's exciting, huh? How does it feel having an album out? Like, yay.
Feels
Because you
great.
guys
It
have it
feels
with your band, right? And so but this
right.
is your special baby.
This is my special baby. Yes, it feels good to be at my advanced age finding my voice. It really feels good. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's one of the things
that's
that makes
cool.
me happy, and it's also a legacy too. After I'm long and gone, people will be listening to this stuff, and that's a good thing. That's how I feel when I listen to Gershwin. I mean, I'm not Gershwin by any means, but I feel like when you listen to somebody's music, you're communicating with their soul. I think anyway. I am.
Yeah. Well, you're telling stories, and you're connecting people with what was happening in life and in life for you and life for the nation itself, and putting sense of place. I think that's also, cool about this conversation too. Is like
Hmm.
you go somewhere and be part of it, and you obviously did. I mean, even changing religions, you
Yeah.
know, you became part of the place you were living in.
It
And
was almost impossible not to. It was just such a wonderful, moving experience to be down there, and that's why I had to do the album because Kentucky became a huge part of my life. And like I said, thinking I was going to be a loser going to Kentucky, and then uh, it was a wonderful experience.
well, yeah, because if you don't give over
Mm-hmm.
and become part of it, you're not going to enjoy it. You know what I mean? You can still be who you are internally, right? You don't,
Yes,
you don't sell your soul to anybody or anything, right? Or any place, but you can be part of it. And you have to make adjustments in life to make that happen. You alter beliefs because there's something different than what you had before. That's what travel does. That's why we're on the road full time because we can't get enough of it. We're like,
yeah,
we're like travel pigs. Like everywhere you go, it's like you learn something new, you see something new, you meet new people that expand what you think you know, and there, I don't think we'll ever know anything really at the end of the day because it's
Oh
always
no.
changing, you
Well,
know?
I like travel, but my wife loves travel. Say hello,
Good for
Barbara.
her. Hi,
That's Barbara.
Barbara.
Okay. And
Well,
she's
but travel is good. It's really good. And you get to hear the music of the places. Like you didn't think about bluegrass much, right? Being in Chicago. And then,
no.
well, you had, some electric blues going on in Chicago. Chicago's blues scene,
Hmm.
amazing. But then here you go to bluegrass, not far, and you weren't that far, honestly. Well, nothing's far to me anymore, so I should shut up about it. But being able to be part of the culture with the music history, that's special.
And there's
To
wonderful musicians down in Kentucky. If you
hmm
listen to the album, the three guitarists that played with Boscoe France, who's a emerging blues artist. Then Alonzo Pennington, who's more generalized guitarist, including Western Kentucky thumb picking. Um, and they're just terrific. And it's a pleasure to be able to play with these guys. As you listen to the album, there's some wonderful guitar work on there, and
That's cool.
so
That's cool.
I'm thrilled.
Now with your band in Chicago, the prog rock, right? You guys
Yes.
am I right that you guys went way back historically? You're
Oh,
kind of part
absolutely.
of the annals of Chicago music.
The band was called McLuhan after the Canadian philosopher Marshall McLuhan,
Hmm. Yeah.
and we were all students at the University of Illinois at the Circle campus, Chicago, and I lived next door to Paul, who was the woodwind guy, and they were coming. They were in a show band and they didn't like what they're doing. So Dave, the trumpet player, got together and wrote all these pieces. And he was they're very complex as you hear musical pieces. Um, and I was fortunate enough to jump in. And a record company, Brunswick Records, heard us and recorded us. Brunswick was a R&B company.
Mm.
They did a band called the Shy Lights, which is oh, I see her face everywhere I go on the streets or even in the studio. Anyway, but we were going to be their white crossover band. We were going to be like Rare Earth, and but we were
Oh
not
yeah.
funky. We were not funky, so it didn't really go anywhere then. But it was interesting because it's a well produced album. Bruce Swedien was the engineer. Bruce Swedien, RIP, just died recently. Um, he was also the engineer on Thriller. So it's got some really,
Wow.
really cool stuff on it. And now it's just over the last several years, there's over 100,000 views of it on different sites on YouTube. And you can
Mm.
look at YouTube called, YouTube McLuhan Anomaly, and you can download it and share it and whatever. But it's
Mm. And
and then
people,
we got together when we broke up. Life happens. We
sure.
and no,
But
but and then we got together with several of the guys back in 2017, 2018, and we started playing
mm.
out again.
See, now that, and then the catch up is good shenanigan. That's good gossip. See, we're back to the storytelling and gossip, right?
Yes,
That's the
yes,
thing
yes.
when you reuniting is always interesting. And it's like, are you going to do that again, even though it's been 20 years? It's like, yes, that's who I am as a human being. So everyone, McLuhan, you can go to McLuhan.band, on the website to keep up with them there and dig into that history and what's happening now. So check that out. And then also, keep up with Neal. Go to facebook.com, Neal.Rosner. So it's Neal, and that's Rosner. Although I know that you're really called the Roz, right? With a Z.
Right. Awesome. Sometimes the Reverend Roz, sometimes Dr.
Oh,
Roz.
the Reverend Roz. Oh, he may dunk you in the water. You
Oh
go to the
yeah.
Cumberland Gap and see if he brings you back up. Yeah, that's it.
Well, it was a full dunk when I got baptized. I'll tell you that it
Did
was a
you
full dunk.
you did
It wasn't a
you did
sprinkle.
the whole thing. You went in.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
they
and it was
put
nice.
you, they
And it was nice.
submerged.
It was nice
Huh.
and warm, but I forgot I was supposed to exhale when I got under instead of inhaling. So I started coughing and stuff. Like it was a bit of a laugh, you know.
That's wild though. You really did it. Like that goes like, beyond, the Baptist, like was it John the Baptist? We used to do that to people. We used to always throw buckets of water on people, like if you're at the beach or whatever. I'm like, John the Baptist, watch out. And then you throw a bucket of water on them,
Oh, sure.
as
Well, my
kids.
and my and my wife was raised a Protestant, and she a lot of the places she got sprinkled. That was their baptism. It wasn't a big dunk.
She didn't
You
go
know.
for the full dunk. It sounds like
No.
Dunkin' Donuts right now. We've got a good commercial going on. But yeah, that's wild. Like going in the river, like doing, I'm not, I've not done that, right? But doing that, and I've seen, baptisms and always wondered, like, what are people thinking when they're going in the river, being baptized? Like, is your belief system so big that once you go under and come back out, that you're changed from that? Like, what is going on? I'm sorry, I have to ask because I've never
Well, no,
done it,
for
and I've
me, it
always.
wasn't like that. For me, it was first of all, it wasn't the river. It was in the baptismal font, which was nice and warm. Um,
Oh,
and
that's good. Yeah.
and for me, it wasn't the spiritual part of me joining the church was just joining the church. This was just like it was my initiation fee to join the church. I, I, I've never been much of a believer, and then, of course, after my son's death, I'm you know, yeah, I've a little bit more distance from it. But just I don't know, it's a feeling of goodness I get when I go to this darn church. It's just a really good thing. This is what I keep thinking. This is what Christians ought to be, and I really
Mm.
am pro church, pro church. It's First Christian Church in Madisonville, Kentucky, and the pastor is Kara Foster, and these are just wonderful people.
I think that's important. So many times you meet people like, I'm a Christian, you can trust me, kind of thing. And then, they rip you off. And it's people who have to tell you. And I think that in life, whether they say they're a Christian or not, like when they, you know what I mean? It's like here, uh, but they use that term, and I've been ripped off a few times, like, and it's
Sure.
been specifically that. And it's been like, whoa, you know, but then I have a lot of friends who are very Christian and very practicing and believing and truly act that way. Kindness, give their shirt off the back for a stranger. People
Oh,
like
absolutely.
true blue, and I understand the Christian faith and belief, but I think they're just these amazing people. And I whether we go to a higher power or not, I think it's a beautiful thing when people are truly kind and generous, and generous, not
Absolutely.
like here's my bank account. I'm not talking about that. I mean generous in that, you know, uh, I have one loaf of bread. Let's all share it, with whatever I have. And there are people out there like that. And when you do meet them, don't second guess it. Appreciate it and try to be like that. They inspire me to be better, as
Absolutely.
friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think when you get a group and then it's practicing, and I think that's part of the role of church and meetings. Like, I know
Mhm.
friends who are in AA, like if they don't have their meeting, it's now a bumpy road again, but that keeps them going because it's a consistency and it's a fellowship that holds everybody accountable and holds everybody up. And if you fall or stumble, they're going to help you get back on your feet. It's like true community. And our country has been very divided, as you know, in what you sing about in your album. But also our family life is very spread out. People are living across the country and around the world. It's changed since I was a kid, but I've always been traveling and everything. But like in the cultures I grew up in South Africa and Kenya and England, it's very communal. So I think it's there in suburbia America where people share play dates with kids and everything. But
Mhm.
I kind of feel like there's a disconnect, and I'm hoping we go back to that. And when you find, and maybe it is find fellowship with church, maybe it's not church, I don't know. But if you can find fellowship and work together and unite in that way, I think you can accomplish more in a positive light in life than not. You can't do it all on your own.
Amen, sister. That's good.
Yeah. All right, I'm not a preacher. I'm just saying. I'm just thinking that way. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah,
kind of feel like, yeah, and that's part of the role of music. If people feel lonely, music helps that, you know?
oh, absolutely.
Um, yeah, so I think that's all a good role. But Neil, it's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us here.
Oh, thank you so much. And
I,
I'm very happy to do it. It's a nice way to
yeah,
end my vacation here in California.
yeah, well, enjoy the rest of your vacation. Every little second of Palm Desert and the sunshine and the wildflowers and margaritas and tacos. Are you allowed a margarita? The margaritas and tacos are a must. You're in
No,
Mexican food paradise,
yeah.
you know.
But I lived in Kentucky for 12 years, so I'm a bourbon guy.
Ah, well, yeah. You could probably get that. They make good cocktails in Palm Springs. I know that for
Yes.
a fact. Yeah,
Mm.
they do good cocktails. And oh man, did you go to Palm Springs at all to any of, they have,
Yeah.
well, are we doing this on a Sunday? You probably missed it. They have all kinds of crazy brunches, drag queen brunches and all kinds of stuff going on.
No,
It's
we
fun.
didn't go there. We went to a vintage car show downtown in Palm Springs, and just a lot, some million, it's just wonderful things with people down there. The whole Coachella Valley is just wonderful down there.
It is. It is. Now, are you going to have to put a sweater on to go back to Chicago or jacket? Jacket, right? Yeah.
Jacket, you know.
Gloves. Yeah. I learned that there's a difference between mitten and gloves. Like mittens don't work. Gloves, like we need gloves, real gloves. There's two different
Au,
things.
au contraire, I think mittens are where it is at because you get your hands together and keep your fingers warm. But sometimes glove for me, at least for me anyway, because sometimes gloves, you know, don't work. Don't gloves don't do it for me. For me, I'm a mitten guy.
Huh. I don't know. I just had these little woolen things that didn't work, and I thought those were mittens. Maybe I don't know the difference.
But I think
Huh.
for me, technically the difference is the mittens have you got your thumb, and then the rest of your hand is all together. Okay,
Oh.
whereas gloves is individual fingers. And this way, with the
Oh.
mitten, at least my definition, I can my fingers keep warm. Whereas we
Oh,
got
no, no. Okay. No, no, no. See, I thought gloves were when it was a solid, like you don't have holes in, like, knitting, like a knitted,
sure, yeah.
it's not really protective. It's like a windbreaker versus a sweater.
Ah,
Right. So that was my difference. Huh. Now I got what you're saying. Yeah, I do like those. Like, especially if you have like a sheepskin on the inside, like with all the
oh
big
yeah, oh yeah.
fluffies. Oh, yeah. We need that. hmm I didn't have any of that in the snow country, and I'm stupid on that kind of stuff, but I've learned, and but I'm not going to repeat it. I'm not doing it again. I refuse. I am sticking in the sunshine, and I will visit your area in Chicago in the sunshine summery time. It's beautiful out there. You guys have amazing architecture and crazy
We do.
traffic on Friday nights, but good music coming out of there too. So
Yes,
everyone,
there is.
again, Neal.Rosner on Facebook. The album Kentucky by Neal Rosner is on Spotify. You can get it on Amazon. So you can get it as a CD, is it all streaming for folks?
It's all streaming.
Yeah, all streaming. It's also on YouTube, so check it out there. Thank you so much, Neal. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you and goodbye. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Art Show. Please keep up with us at bigblendradio.com and keep up with Big Blend magazines at blendradioandtv.com.